Hey everyone, welcome back to the series where we're looking at this new add-on made for Blender called BioBlender. Today we're gonna look at how to work with viruses, or what is known as the capsids of these viruses. Most of these viruses have icosahedral uh, symmetry. So what I'm doing here is I type 1K for R in our importer. I'm importing this symmetric part of the virus as a protein and as a surface. And again, it took a little longer since I didn't select fast import. The reason I didn't select fast import is because I want to have that vertex color data. So if I go here and I select material vertex real and apply that material, and I have my selection and then I apply that material, and then if I go to view this, then I see I have now this nice color based on the chains. This is the symmetric part of a virus called dengue. What we're gonna do next is basically grab that symmetric part, and then we're gonna go to our add-on and go to the virus section, and we're gonna find a button that it's generate assembly. What this is gonna do is basically go over all the math that we need to generate our entire capsid based on that symmetric structure. As we see, we have it back there. So we can go again into render view, and we already have like a really nice result based on that vertex color data that we brought. So everything already has color, it looks nice. However, how can we modify that color from the vertex? So the way to do that is we can go into shading, and if we, instead of selecting the assembly, we select the individual part, then we can get here, we already have this setup here that we can change the hue. I'm changing the hue, we're basically changing the color. We can change the saturation also if we want really saturated colors, or if I usually like unsaturated colors because subsurface works better. And then once we play with those values, we can also play with here with the subsurface color to kind of modify again those colors. So that's like 3 ways we can really get any color we want out of these 3 proteins. So let me just go back to 0.7 maybe, or 0.8. This looks good. Another way that we can do this is, and let me show this on another virus. So let me move this over here. So that's dengue. I imported this other protein. This is quite a big protein. It would have taken like around 1 or 1.5 minutes to import. But as we see, it has lots and lots of vertices, that's why. But however, now that we have it here, we can go ahead and do again generate assembly. And the reason this protein also took longer was because of I imported it with vertex color. So we see here now that we have our generated assembly. This is what it looks like. Let's go into our render view, and as we see here, it looks cool, but it doesn't look that great compared to the one on the left. The reason for that is because we have, in my opinion, we have too many colors. The reason for that is because this asymmetric symmetric unit here has a lot of chains, and we get the color, different color for each of those chains. However, what we can do in this case is if we go back here, and now we select this, we go let's set just a regular real material on it first. So now everything is going to be just one color. That's still not that good. We want something different, but what we can do real fast here is if we go into this view and then we go into edit view, we're going to be assigning vertex, creating vertex groups and giving a color to that. So if you don't know how to do that, I'm going to show it right now. So first of all, I'm going to activate this X-ray view. That way I get the vertices in the front and the vertices in the back. I'm going to go into lasso select, and I'm going to trace a line here, and then I'm just going to select that. Let me go back. I forgot to press shift, so press shift to add to the selection, then grab those. Let me go a little farther down, and then we can just finish this with circle select. Just select all those last vertices. So I incorrectly selected some of this. If you incorrectly select some of this, you can go to here and then make this be a subtraction. We just press there and press here. Alright, so that's looking good. Now we're going to go into vertex groups. We're going to add 1, and then we're going to hit assign. Now that those vertices are assigned, what we can do is uh, add another group, select our first group and then deselect. Actually, select everything by pressing A, then deselect that first group, then press our second group, and assign those. Once we've done that, we can go to our material, press on the plus button, then let's select from this menu the real again, and then we can press assign. Now we can go to our vertex group, deselect, select our first group and press select. And now that we've done that, we go to our top material and then press assign. Now we go out of edit mode. Let's turn off X-ray again. Let's press on these two, that way you have two different materials. And now you can change the color of this if we go to a shading view. So now we get basically just two colors for our protein, and in my opinion this is going to look just much better, as you see here. So basically we already have these two very nice looking viruses here, or capsid of our viruses. Now in some of these cases these capsids would be full of DNA. So what we can do is again generate DNA or RNA inside those viruses. If these viruses are maybe enveloped by a membrane, then what maybe this one that is round, although this might not be true to reality, what we could do in that case would be generate a vesicle, and now we already have that capsid inside. We can go to cross section of 0. Maybe move this. No, that's working good. Maybe we can turn this to -0.2. So we have something that looks like this already, like our capsid inside that membrane. And then again, we can combine what we learned before to scatter proteins on top of this membrane, generate proteins inside, and then at the end we can also select our object and select emit if we have a molecule collection. And that would be the way to work with these icosahedral viruses. One last thing that I'm going to show here is that some of these viruses or capsids of these viruses, that their role is kind of to be around DNA, are some of them can also be spiral. So one case of this is this one called 1Q L1. So this one I'm gonna do fast import because I don't even it's fast or slow, it's very tiny. So it would be pretty fast either way. But now I have this here, and again I can select it, and I'm gonna do generate assembly. That's gonna generate this spiral over here. If I look at from the top, I see that space there. That's where the DNA would go. So what I'm gonna do next, and in fact let me go back, because what I'm gonna do prior to this, so we don't have a lot of geometry, and this can always be done with any object we import, is to remesh it. So in this case I'm just gonna go to here, to the object, to the object data properties, and I'm gonna do remesh. I'm gonna select something that's not that crazy, like 0.01, smooth normals. Let me get out of edit mode and remesh. So now I have a lot less geometry than I used to have before. So now that I have that, again I'm gonna go ahead and do generate assembly. So that should have generated our assembly here. That's looking good again. What I'm gonna do now, it's gonna select it and then go into the modifiers, and I'm gonna apply that modifier. I'm gonna go edit mode, out of edit mode, and then one last thing I'm gonna do to this, it's going to be to remesh it one more time, again at 0.01, smooth normals, and then remesh. Now we have 1 unit of this spiral capsid. What we're gonna do next is gonna bring DNA. We're gonna have it be surface, and then we're gonna have it be a spiral. So we're gonna have a twisted DNA here. I'm just gonna go ahead and hide this real quick, and I'm gonna select this spiral, and I'm just gonna scale it a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and I want to get close to 3.9 here. So this is being a little slow right now. The reason for that is because I hit the DNA, but I should have went to the modifier and then disable these modifiers. Now this should be much faster. Yep, it's. Let me just go to 3.9. 3.9. Oh, the number here, I just know this number to work, but you can pick any number. So now that I've picked 3.92 in that scale, I'm gonna go back to my DNA here. Where is it here? And I'm gonna enable again these two things. So that way now I am able to see my DNA wrapping around this spiral. But what the capsid would do would actually sit also around that, covering the DNA everywhere. So what I'm gonna do is add an array modifier, select the same curve that we had for that, so the spiral. Then I'm gonna select a relative offset here of 0 0.62. That's what I found to work with this. And then I'm just basically adding the same modifiers that we would find on our DNA object. I set this as a spiral, then I'm just checking this should be in the C direction. So I'm grabbing this, making it the C direction. And now, as we see, we have our capsid literally covering all our DNA. We can look at this also from the top view if we disable this. So as I've said before, this basically, as you see there, the DNA just fits perfectly within that spiral because everything, the units are set up correctly. Everything's been imported with correct units. So we can go ahead and enable all of this again. And then one last thing I want to show here is that if we go ahead and add an extra modifier here called the build modifier, and then we set that to reverse, and let's set the length somewhere around 50. So this is just gonna basically, since we reverse it, instead of building, is gonna unbuild our mesh. So what that's gonna happen is that if I go ahead and hit the play button here, what we're gonna see is our capsid disappearing and opening, creating an opening and showing our DNA inside. So again, this is again a way to show if we have a membrane surrounding this, then we can have the cross section disappear and animate it, and we can also animate this build so that we have the capsid and then we have it disappear, and then that way we show that within the spiral capsid we can find actually our DNA. We could have also set this to cartoon, our DNA, we could have also set it to cartoon. Either way, it's gonna work perfectly. Last thing I'm gonna show is that if we press here randomize, then what this is gonna give us is, instead of making this circle pattern of disappearing, it's gonna disappear mesh everywhere. So as we see here, it's just starting to generate holes, and that is also gonna create a nice effect. If we go to something like frame 40, then we can have an idea of what this might look like at this point. It's basically creating that nice effect of disappearing and then leaving only the DNA that we can see. Alright, so last thing I'm going to show, it's going to be basically a showcase of all of these. Basically some of the results you can get following the videos I've following all this series of videos, as well as using this new add-on called BioBlender. So if I go here, let me just show this showcase. So as I was mentioning, if you actually were to do a render of that mode with random, it would look something like this. So basically that spiral capsid disappearing and just showing the DNA inside. You can also do the other mode that basically disappears the capsid this way. You can always animate the membranes and the displacement and the cross section as I mentioned. Here I'm just showing like if you follow that video of protein scatter, then you can get results like this pretty fast. This is the coronavirus. You can also get you can also follow the scatter procedure to get something like a red blood cell if you deform it the way I also showed. You can also have HIV capsid. So this capsid is not, it doesn't follow any of these symmetries, but we can still model it if we follow the membrane and the scatter protein scatter. We can still have a very nice image, and a very the scale is correct and everything would be correct if we follow that procedure. Then based on our DNA video, if we take a little longer to develop the curve, maybe you could add a surface in the back of DNA and then play with the coral colors, and then this is rendering Eevee. As you can see, we have I used line art here, so things look more clear. So that is a good use for Eevee. If we want that line art to make things more clear, then that would be a way of doing it. If you want something artistic, you can also have like abstract art with these shapes. Again, this was rendered in Eevee. Or you could have more realistic kind of images. If we follow that membrane tutorial with the all different molecules being emitted, here I added mitochondria and DNA inside. I moved proteins around. But again, you can achieve these results really quick using this add-on. And then if you just zoom in, you get to see all these different molecules floating and diffusing. You can do an animation of all of this. And then finally, regarding the viruses, then you can have something that looks like this. So this was our dengue. You can just copy and paste it and have multiple of them around the scene using Shift D. Or you could have 3 different viruses, and then again, if you color them right, then you would get you can color them however you want and get some nice images. Also, you can create this side view of the membrane and add some transmembrane domains, and then here you can add labels to this image if you wanted to represent something, and then you can always use this for illustration purposes. So I hope you enjoyed that series. That's basically how to get most of the features of this add-on. You can find it in the Blender market, and if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me.